Chris Rocky's got it all.
Kingdoms of Death feels like Pierce Brown's Dark Age.
If Rocchio can do anything, that man could write.
Who the cares about Polino? I'll say it.
Welcome everyone to the Toot Around podcast. My name is Richard.
My name, Austin.
Today we're talking about another special book of a special series, The Sun Eater Saga, Book 4, Kingdoms of Death.
It continues.
Now, preface for the video. For the first 10, 15-ish minutes, we will be talking spoiler-free for this book, but full spoilers for books 1 through 3. And then after that, full spoilers, breaking down each category, what we think about it. Overall, comparing book 4 to book 3, where are you at?
Oh boy. Kingdoms of Death. For me, if we're just going to rank the series, and of course, if you want our other thoughts, we have a review for each and every book. Spoiler-free, Kingdoms of Death is tied for second. If I had to say, I'd say second of the 4 books. I would go Howling Dark, Kingdoms of Death, Demon in White, and then first book.
Yeah. Similar for me, but I have a couple flipped around where my number one by a hair is still Demon in White. Followed that is kind of tie for second of Kingdoms of Death and Howling Dark.
Yep.
And then, Empire of Silence after that.
Yeah.
It's fine. Whatever.
Perpetually in last.
Perpetually in last. It's okay.
Yeah.
We move forward.
Forward, never back.
Forward,
forward.
And down.
Yes.
Never side to side. Yes.
So, Kingdoms of Death lives by its name to give people, if you reread the first 3 books and you would just want to know spoiler-free thoughts on Kingdoms of Death, where do we end up in Demon in White going into this book to refresh people's memory? What are we leading into before reading this book?
From Demon in White, we see Hadrian, the Knight Victorian or Olympic Knight. Am I saying it right?
I think it's a Victorian.
Knight Victorian. He is kicking Cielson butt. He meets the Quiet. He now has some degree of control over the Quiet's power to be able to choose alternate realities, and he uses that to win the day against Doriaika, the Prince of the Cielson, but with heavy casualties, lots of loss, and now his secret is out. Is the Chantry going to investigate him further? Is the Emperor going to snuff him out because he's a threat to the throne? Find out next bat time, same bat time, next bat channel, whatever. So now we left off with Kingdoms of Death. There is, of course, a time skip, like all the other books. I don't think that's a spoiler at this point. No,
there's a time skip.
There's a time skip. And I guess, how far do you want me to get into, like, setting it up spoiler-free?
I think
fine?
As far as spoiler-free goes, Kingdoms of Death, the title says enough.
Yeah. Lots of death. This is the sad boy book. All right? If that's not obvious by the title, sorry.
The people that might see Kingdoms of Death as their top of the top book are the people that appreciate emotional journeys, or what would you compare this book to in our sphere of fantasy sci-fi? Because one comes to mind for me, if people have read it.
You shoot yours out first.
Dark Age by Pierce Brown. This Kingdoms of Death feels like Pierce Brown's Dark Age, which, not spoiling Dark Age either, but that sense, the titles alone, you can kind of see Dark Age, Kingdoms of Death, these very grim tones.
Yeah.
And this is where Rocchio, in this specific book, it's very focused. It's and way more so. So Demon in White had 5 different kind of arcs or plot lines going on throughout, where you started off with battle sequence, then you had politicking and him, the Chantry investigating him, going to Colchist and seeing Gibson, and then Annika, quiet stuff, and then battle again. So there were segments you could kind of put in your head, whereas Kingdoms of Death is focused and basically intense.
There's basically 3 segments, and the middle segment is by far the longest. There's the introduction, the whole book, and then the ending, which I will love to talk about, because I think the ending is the most unique or interesting choice that I think Rockio made for this book, which I really enjoyed.
And some info going in. You know this. I know you know this. We talked to Rockio about this, and people online know this. This book was originally combined with Ashes of Man. So books 4 and 5, which we have not read book 5, we review these after finishing the books without going onward. So books 4 and 5 were originally one long book, but Rockio was told to cut it in half by the publisher or some sort because this is 200,000 words. It's the smallest so far in the series, I believe. As you can see, we actually don't have it here because the here rant time from Rich. Yep.
Tiny aside.
Yep.
I know it's not Rockio's fault.
Yeah.
But I looked everywhere for the hardcover of Kingdoms of Death, and I can't find it. I went all the way to Books A Million, and Books A Million said I could order it. Said they had it. Well, over a month, and they're like, yeah, we're still trying to get it, which at this point, I think I'm just going to cancel the order because I think they're scamming me. I'm going to have to find another place to get
lawyer,
them.
Scott, he's not saying they're scamming him. It's not libel yet.
I feel scammed. It's my feelings.
Yes, that can't be used against a court. It's how you feel.
It's how I feel.
Yeah. You just feel like you want to murder somebody. You're not actually...
It is technically a valid business transaction, but I feel slighted that I want book, they are not providing book.
Lawyer Scott's fine with that, I'm sure.
Okay.
It's right. Okay, so... with Kingdoms of Death, going into this, again, not spoiling it whatsoever, but knowing that this was originally the first half of a longer book, when I finished the book, it feels like a complete book. If nobody told me that beforehand of, hey, this is one long book, I would not have known. I would not have noticed.
100%.
It's very naturally ends. So going into this book, if you haven't read it, don't feel like, oh, it's going to be cliffhanger. Oh, it's going to be something where it's not complete. No, this is a complete book in its own right.
It ends at the right spot, I think.
It does, yes. And which we can't discuss yet till spoilers, but if you're worried about that, I did not find an issue with it. Did you at all, Rich?
Not at all.
Not at all.
So, wonderful ending to the book. Like where it is.
Yes.
I'm glad it's not the midpoint of a further book.
Where do you see this usually ranking in people's love of Sun Eater?
Oh, it's similar to where we are. I mean, I think a lot of times it's people's best, second best. It's up there for most people. Then again, that's the whole thing with the Sun Eater series is I've seen lots of people say, I haven't seen too many Ashes of Man like being their people's favorite, but it's normally Disquiet Gods is actually up there for people of like, sometimes that's their favorite. Heard plenty of Demon in White, Kings of Death. Ironically, haven't heard too many like Howling Dark being people's favorite. Though, I mean, there are some, like you right now.
Yeah.
Also, Christopher.
Yeah,
It's also his favorite.
Yeah, nice, Rockio. So, and we, our patrons, many of them have a fervor for this series. Actually, our editor, hey, Nick, he doesn't like Sun Eater. Shame on you, Nick.
What a shame.
He's going to play with, I don't know. I just gave him ammunition. Now he's going to feel vengeance, and he has control over what happens here. Yeah. That's never good. He's being able to play. I can't give references to the book yet. I have to wait. References come in the next part of the video. But our patrons, shout out Albert, Kendall, Q, Scott, so many of you that all love Sun Eater and specifically Kingdoms of Death. Scott, who we mentioned earlier too, gave it 5 stars.
Also, always have to give Coop a shout out of he's the one that got us to actually read this book.
I'm trying to ignore him.
Oh, sorry.
Next video, don't mention Coop.
Okay.
It'll piss him off. Thank you, Coop. That's all you get. So, and if you want to join our book club where we chat about books every single month, we have a community book club. We have an official book club that we do with the patrons there. Check out our link in the description below. It's our Patreon and Discord link. Yeah, do that. But to our official rating for Kingdoms of Death, what did you give it out of 5 stars?
My overall rating for Kingdoms of Death is a 4.75. Freaking spectacular book.
Freaking spectacular. Okay. Didn't you give Howling Dark and Demon in White 5 stars? So
yes.
Wouldn't this be your third favorite? Or did you in retrospect like lower?
Retrospect.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's like a corrected over time.
My other 2 scores have changed slightly.
Got it.
Actually, you convinced me on the thought-provoking category of Demon in White. of lowering that a little bit and this one higher.
This one's higher. Got it. Okay. So, because I gave for this book, just to give my 3 scores, I gave book 1, I gave like a 2.25 stars. I was very disappointed. Book 2, Howling Dark, 5 stars. Book 3, 4.5 stars. I give Kingdoms of Death a 4.5 stars. Spectacular. Yeah. And so that about tracks where we thought of Demon in White in comparison, because you're saying like, hey, it's not as good as Demon in White because barely, but
it scratches a different itch.
It does. It's so different.
It's a very different book, and I judge it just kind of, at this point, it's mostly preference of I was so thoroughly impressed and enjoyed the plot structure of Demon in White. I liked the mini arcs all tying together. I thought that was really wonderful. Yeah. All that kind of stuff I liked more in Demon in White, but character work and of course, the thought-provoking nature of this book is definitely higher than Demon in White. So
that's interesting. So would your highest category be thought-provokingness? Or what is your highest category for this before we go in?
It's a 3-way tie.
Okay.
If you include overall.
What would you say, like, without looking at the actual number, then what was the shining feature of this book?
Oh, sorry, I was even missing. I wasn't even reading properly. Oh. The highest category is characters.
Really?
Yes.
We'll have a great discussion. My lowest category is characters.
Oh,
okay. So we'll have a disagreement because it's still high. Yeah. It's still, so it's like we're talking peanuts, but my highest was world building. I was again constantly blown away. That's what I think it did best.
That was one of my lower ones.
Wow. But we agreed thought provokingness was great.
Yeah.
Okay. Dang. Okay. So we like the book differently for different reasons.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, here we go. Then
we finally actually have to have we get to have some disagreement here.
Yes, and you know what I did in preparation for this specific video that I didn't do for any other. I have a pronunciation catalog for
no, you don't.
I made sure to have I'll wait to say this, I guess spoilers, but all the names of stuff, there's so much weird names. I'm like, let me have that down so like when we can't come up with the name of the thing,
I have
nice. I have a checklist I can go back to. So our pronunciations are going to be better, hopefully, as we get into spoiler territory. Are you ready for that?
Not yet.
Oh, yeah.
One last thing to say before spoilers.
Yes.
I thoroughly enjoy the audiobook for this series. I think the narrator does a great job. However, my word of warning and word of caution here is there is a particular character voice in Kingdoms of Death that I think was the wrong choice. So wrong that I think it actually affected my enjoyment of the book to a significant degree. I started like rethinking these characters and going, what am I viewing the character wrong because of the voice? It was incredibly distracting. It made me want to put down the audiobook and go to the physical, but I don't have the physical. Beside the point. So that's my word of warning. Maybe just read the physical for this one.
Thing is, the narrator, is it Sam Rukin or I'm forgetting the narrator's name. That was not in my pronunciation checklist. But he does an awesome job, especially with Hadrian's voice. It's a different character's voice specifically in the book.
Yes.
Through
everything else, great. It's just this one character choice that it was really distracting for me. And so that's also my biggest negative of the book, or at least my experience with the book. Yeah.
Spoiler time. This is your warning. Spoilers for Kingdoms of Death. This is it. We're talking it.
Yeah.
Giving you one more chance. And emotional impact. Would you give it out of 5 stars?
Overall, I gave emotional impact a 4.5. Spectacular.
I gave it 4.25. Really great. It's just below my overall score, which is, that doesn't exactly align.
Mm-hmm. Mine's also slightly below my overall.
So then, what do you think the big emotions it was going for and tone of the book? I mean, is obvious, but getting specific into some scenes that show that.
Yeah, no, dread, hopelessness.
Yep.
A lot of this, I think, was obviously by the name. It is death and how people face it, and different cultures, different people face death in different ways. How do you embrace it? Do you embrace it at all? Do you run from it? Like, a lot of that is a theme of it, especially with, I think the most interesting part with the world building is the Cielsen, and particularly Doriaika and their whole religion being basically a death cult. And I find that very interesting. It's a good way to, like, why do they want to, like, take over the world and destroy everything? You kind of look at the Cielsen as they, again, I'm going too much into it.
You're going world, but what about emotion? What pulled you?
Dread.
Yeah.
It's dread. That's what it is. But by the end, you get some really good hope of, like, it's just the mending. I do like the emotion at the end of how Hadrian can slowly overcome or at least adapt the incredible trauma he's put through in this book. And he's not fixed, but he's in the process of healing. And he'll never be the same, but he's getting better. And I loved that little wrap-up journey that he had.
Yeah, so you guess you have those two big sections are
Dread
70% dread and torture, and then 5% hope. And which one I guess, did you like the fact that Gibson section was included in this book?
Oh, tremendously. I thought that was an interesting moment of Hadrian and Valka in the ship and realize, like, oh, it's going to be 28 years for us to get back. And I'm going, like,
there's the time skip.
And I was going, this is the ending of the book. Like, this is where any other author would have just cut the book. But I was like, there's a whole over an hour left in the audiobook. Where's he taking this for a whole hour? And him going back to Annika and
Colchis. Well, let me check my pronunciation. Yep,
Colchis. And seeing Gibson one final time was heartwarming. And I loved that whole sequence. And we had a good amount of time, not just him with Gibson, but also Hadrian alone on the ship and Valka not wanting to leave him alone, and, like, for good reason of Hadrian's clearly traumatized, and, like, to just leave him alone for 20 something years. Like, is he gonna mess up the ship? What's gonna happen to him? I loved all of that post trauma. Hadrian was wonderful.
You could have seen a world where this entire book was, let's torture Hadrian, have Doriaika and the Cielsen, biting his fingers off, ripping him apart, and making him drink piss. That's the light stuff of it. And then the 28 years in space, I could see from all of that setup going, oh, Rocchio's just going to hammer home the dread. And I could have very easily seen 28 years of him going insane and losing more of his sanity. And then the book just ends with Hadrian completely broken.
Yeah.
And that could have been an ending.
Or it also could have been similar, but just not the same, of him ending at he got out and then full cut off. And that whole 28 years and the next time skip is all just his recovery is just handled in the time skip. I think a different author would have done it that way. And I like that Christopher did not do that.
Yeah, I guess for you, the big emotional scene to talk about here, because what we'll try to do in these ones is pull in little micro. The 90,000 Red Company members getting cannibalized, and Hadrian watching Duran die, and then slowly, one by one, Ilax and Polino and everybody. That major scene there.
Literally all of his friends except Valka and
Gibson.
Not Gibson, but the one that got away, we think.
Lorien, I believe.
Lorien and Valka, his two remaining friends in the universe. But also putting that in context is, one, that hits, like, you actually get to see them die. What really drives that, like, twist the knife more is them going back to Colchis and seeing the descendants, and Hadrian having a good moment of reflection of going, I'm back in the Empire, but almost everyone I've ever known and loved is dead. Not just my friends that have lost to the Cielsen, but now even my friends that I left and I came back, like, I'm seeing their great-great-grandchildren. How is this, like, all the friends and connections I've made, even in the Empire, like the inner circle, like, they're all gone. Like, he has left and come home, and it's repeated several times of, you can never return Like, you never step in the same river twice, basically. And so now he's back home, but it's not the home that he left.
With all of Siren's descendants.
Yeah.
And her great granddaughter, right?
Something.
Many generations.
Greats. Yeah.
Yes. And for me too, another one of those emotional scenes. I guess to look at it, the hope scenes at the end and the dread scenes in the middle, the one that got me the most was definitely all the scenes with Gibson and being able to have some catharsis. But then the biggest torture scene, or the one that got me maybe even more so than the whole company dying. This one maybe hit me just a little bit more because I care so much about Hadrian. But when he finally caved and he gave the information to Doriaika, and Doriaika already had the information anyways. He just wanted to break him. Just wanted to break him. And that's an interesting thing, because I think this is more so for plot, but I want to start this off here and then we'll talk about it more later on. But there's this trope I hate of the good guy kills all the bad guys and then doesn't kill the big bad. Right. Yeah. Because reasons and plot needs you to. And I'll talk about this in plot, of course. But in reverse here, it's the bad guy, Doriaika, kills all the good guys. Except for Hadrian, because reasons for their culture and world and plot, which I think are set up. I naturally don't like that trope. However, this was handled the best it can be, because it gives significant reasons why, with the Doriaika seeing the future and the Watchers and the Quiet and knowing how these end up, and also him needing to show to the other Cielcin folk, like, hey, I need to show you that I am the Prince of Princes. So there's a lot of reasons why it happens. Yeah.
Yes and no to that. Actually, that exact plot point kind of doesn't work with how the plan is done. And we'll get into it in plot, but ultimately, his claim of, I need Hadrian to like prove to the other Cielcin princes that like I am the one and they will bow to me.
Kills them all.
Then he kills them all.
Yeah.
And they didn't know Hadrian was there in the first. It's not like he was able to pull them all together because of Hadrian and saying, hey, I've captured Hadrian, and they all meet. No, they were meeting anyway, and he surprised them with going like, look, I captured Hadrian Marlowe. Yeah. So ultimately, the plot doesn't make sense other than the fact that Doriaika saw the future.
With the Watchers and the Quiet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's, to me, the only thing other than he's an ideologue. He's a firm believer in the death cult. He wants not only to win, but to humiliate the enemy and prove the champion of the enemy wrong. Yeah. And if he breaks him, then maybe it's a level of confirmation that he needs it. Because what Doriaika believes is deranged. Maybe he needs a little bit of confirmation of, if I can break Hadrian Marlowe, then I really am right.
Right.
But we'll get into that later.
We will. Just showing why I gave it like a 4.25 and really great. It generally has things that are hard for me to like. Of you're keeping Hadrian alive because he needs to, and we also know Hadrian lives, so it's not like I'm sitting there going, when's Hadrian gonna die? Because I know he does survive. But yeah, you make a good point there. That general trope bothers me enough to go, all right, bad guy can't kill the ultimate good guy because he's the protagonist, and you have that natural plot armor. And sorry, I'm talking about the emotional part, but that was part of it. Like, I was invested and interested more so in what is the grand plan behind Doriaika and the Cielcin and the mysteries unfolding, and that tension had me really going. But then my other thing, I'll talk more in characters too, because of like those emotional gut punching moments and etc. But yeah, I just wanted to say that in the emotional part, why this one, there's that general trope. Does that bother you at all? Or is that something that you take and doesn't?
Sure. The trope bothers me too.
Okay. Yeah. But I wanted to say though, that even though the trope can bother you, I think he executes it very well. So I wasn't sitting there like grinding my teeth, because we're reading this from Hadrian, who is already alive. And he throws enough intrigue in there to make it that it's not like the point of it, and Doriaika keeping him alive is supposed to be the fact that look how messed up and just quote unquote justified Hadrian will be later, and we know he destroys his son. So kind of pushing this pain and showing you how much Hadrian suffers can make you understand why Hadrian might make that decision later in the series.
I'm also at the point of, it's not about whether Hadrian will live or die. It's about his friends, because all of the visions, he sees a bunch of his friends die, but like several times he saw the vision of his walking to his death and going like, Volka asks, was I there? Was I in the vision?
Yeah.
He says, no, I don't know. He has no idea what's going to happen to his friends. So when we, the reader, are hearing this, we don't know. Like, it's very possible all of his friends are dead. Mm-hmm. And we have no confirmation from Hadrian in the future that his friends live past that point. So that's where the anxiety of...
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, we get the confirmation, oh, his friends live, his friends survived, and now they're all dead. So, little old 1-2 punch, like, they're all dead. They're alive. They're all dead again.
Yeah.
So that's the good emotional pull there.
Yeah, definitely. And remind me in plot, we'll bring up that again and talk specifically something on the quiet too. So we'll loop around.
I also had a couple moments. There was one particular moment that I felt hyped of, like, just good old Hadrian moment of like, go Hadrian, was when he was being tortured and he's being confronted by the extrasolarians.
Yeah. Oh, finally, what was her name? Severine,
yes. I think. And him finally getting a little bit of his mojo back and like using the power of the quiet to actually stand up. And even Severine going like, how the hell are you standing? He's about to walk on water. I'm just like showing her like, no, none of this is, you think you understand the universe, and I have seen things you do not understand. And then him telling her like, you are already dead. You've become less than human by sacrificing parts of your body and soul, and you think you know what death is. I've seen it. I've come back. I love it.
Yeah.
It gave me a good hype moment, even in the depths of his torture.
Yeah. And just getting ahead of myself, but his rejection of the cloning is something. Let's talk about that characters.
Yep.
Okay. So we have thought-provoking next. The messages and themes would you give out of 5 stars?
I gave this one a 4.75.
It's absolutely spectacular for you.
Absolutely spectacular.
I gave this one 4.5 spectacular. This one, the theme of this is what, Rich? I like to alley-oop you.
Yeah.
I'll give you the brownie points. What is it, Rich? Kingdoms of Death is about what, Rich? Come on, what's it?
I mean, he repeats it a couple times, but for a good chunk of it is always, accuse your enemy of what you're doing. I think that's repeated quite a lot through different villains in this. That's something that is discussed in how it's done. The other is the nature of death, suffering, and what does it mean, of the confusion of why is Hadrian being tortured? What is the purpose of pain? And, Doria, like, hey, I've read your philosophers. Pain is actually a virtue. And Hadrian, because he's actually read the stuff. Well, so is Doriaika. But point being is like, it is not the pain that is virtuous. It is how you respond to pain. And so all that stuff. And then there's a couple other things that nature of what is human. So we get into the cloning aspect of him rejecting what are the extrasolarians. There's a good quote in here. I have
guys, Rich did notes for this one.
Yeah.
He has some notes. Let's go.
You cannot become more than human by making yourself less human in the first place. Right? That's what he tells Severine.
Nice.
Good stuff. All this. And that ties into the Hive collective group in the very beginning, which I also really enjoyed.
Yeah. What I love about themes on books is when you can look back at a book and go, okay, that's the theme that defines it.
What do you think is the big one that defines it? Saying one thing, because obviously there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot to go over.
The big defining one is why live? Why continue to live after after despair and torture? What's the reason to continue and move on? I think it's showing, hey, look how awful this is, and then the Gibson section is there to show you why living is important. It does matter. I think Volka even says a comment here that I appreciated. She looked and said, "Wow." Seeing Siren in her says, it's like, this is the best argument for having kids I've ever seen. Like, it's even making me want to have kids, Volka says, and kind of shows that in the loss and the suffering, Siren, who left in Demon and White and stayed behind, life moved on for some people, and loved ones and descendants created these amazing and beautiful things. And Hadrian just left losing all of his friends, but because one of his friends survived and stayed behind the war, there was still beauty there. And it's Hadrian's trying to find the will to live after having everything stripped away from him. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the central thing. It's Kingdoms of Death. It's about death, why life, I would say. So if that's a good way of putting it.
You're right. That is it, especially in comparison to the Cialcin. And I think this is a good point to bring up here, and it also is relevant to world building. But we kind of find out that the Cialcin are, especially the Cialcin of the White Hand and, Prince Doriaika, it's a death cult. They are striving to end all life and destroy the universe because they believe that reality is fake. It is the hell, and actually the great, there is something beyond. When you're dead, it's actually better. They are striving for death of everything.
And the Watchers were apparently here before the universe, and they're gods.
And the Quiet actually created this reality of hell, which I think in other contexts would not work as well. But the more we hear about the Cialcin culture of how awful their beginnings are and how they live, even if you're high up on the hierarchy with the Cialcin, life sucks. Like we have not seen any degree of positivity, happiness. Like it's just suffering and pain. That's all the Cialcin live. There's nothing, like they take joy in the pain of others, and that's about all they have. No wonder that they're a death cult. And they're seeking the great release of death. And not just for them, but they believe that reality is so awful and hellish that it is created artificially by a false god, and that they are fighting with their true god to end the reality of which they're in. It makes sense. And they go through all this suffering, and their answer to it is death.
Yep.
Hadrian goes through all of this suffering, and he still chooses life.
Yes.
A difference between Cialcin and human.
And long after we're separated from this book, will you look back at this and what about this book makes it engaging and makes you think about it and makes the theme so sound? Is it how it handles and how everything's connected to that theme? Because you talked about some things under that umbrella of like talking about cloning, and I think that has directly to do with what is life and Hadrian's own thoughts on
even the beginning stuff with, I can't remember the name of the hive group. Is it
the Commonwealth?
The Commonwealth.
Pronunciations. The Lothrian Commonwealth. Capital is Padmarak.
Look at you. You should do that every
Actually,
book.
Dorantune is the capital of Doriaika's dominion and flagship. Tamerlane, I should just know that by heart. Okay.
Yeah, the Tamerlane, we got it.
Just let me know when you want me to throw
I'm going to use it a lot.
Okay.
But the Commonwealth and so they are pursuing life, but like, what are they willing to sacrifice for it? And what is living to them? And I'm reading it. I thought the big reveal. So I again had no spoilers going into this, but I'll be honest. I thought he was setting it up for the Commonwealth to actually be working toward becoming one with the AI. I thought they had like sequestered an Americani.
Maybe they still are. Who knows?
But all like the leader, one of the leaders that talks to Hadrian.
One of the numbers. Was it 17th or we know which one? Yeah.
He deliberately doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
Big air quotes there for a reason. But the point being, all of he's talking about of all equal, all like suffering of many is insignificant, all every individual for the collective, and the collective is for the individual. What's best for many is best for one. Something like that. Anyway, to me it sounded like the working with and becoming one with the AI sounds like it would actually solve, like that would actually be the fix. That would be it. So that's what I thought they were going to do. but then them working with the Cialcin also makes sense, and how they sacrifice and send so many of their own people to the Cialcin to placate them.
Yes. And a part of Hadrian's disagreement with them too is there's a quote that I should have written down the exact quote, but the 17th is arguing with Hadrian about how disparity creates was it not, he didn't say inequity, but how disparity and differences are basically bad. But differences are bad, and Rocchio says it way more beautifully than I can. And Hadrian looks at that and harshly his is going, no, the differences is what makes us human.
Yeah.
That's some of the crux of it there, of like they're trying to make everybody completely equal. And by making everybody equal, it actually, hierarchies are going to exist regardless. And we kind of see the hypocrisy in the 17th of, he says, it's like, I will get my medical team to help you. Like, yours? I thought it was everybody's. It's such a natural part of humans. Like, how do you create, even the Commonwealth Society was trying to make everybody one sex. And they didn't do that yet because the people gave some pushback, and they're like, oh, they're not ready for that yet.
And no matter how much control they have, they still have, trillions of people. Like, ultimately, if they do push too hard, like, they're going to have a revolution on their hands. Like, you can only push their citizen too much. And this series also does, Hadrian talks to Alexander in the previous books about, like, you rule at the privilege of the people, ultimately. Like, you can do such a bad job that you will be dethroned. That's, like, it is important for nobility to realize that you are given a place of privilege, and that ultimately, if you do too bad of a job, you will be taken down. It's not always true. North Korea is a good example of, like, hey, when's that revolution going to come here? But point still standing across history, generally true.
So generally true, as in the
nobility can only push the lower class so much, and there is a social pact of, if you are at a position of nobility and you're at the top of the hierarchy in some governmental structure of any societal type, that you have a responsibility. If you are taking the privilege, taking the
responsibility,
taking all the rewards of your position and completely rejecting and abdicating your responsibility, eventually at some point, the people are going to cause a riot, overthrow, or try.
If they blame you. Because
if they blame you.
I don't know North Korea stuff, but I imagine the people aren't blaming Kim Jong-un. I don't know. I don't know enough about that, but other than the people are likely indoctrinated to go.
Yeah.
It's not the glorious leader's fault. Like, look at all this stuff. Like, hey, of course this is good. It's the Americans or whatever they're saying, that find somebody else that's the target. And this
propaganda is very effective. Yeah. But I mean, we have plenty of other revolutions of just the most obvious one to reference back to is, like, of course, the French.
The French. Well, which one?
Yeah.
they're always hissing a fit over there.
I will say, at some point, like, a couple of French revolutions, you go like, I get it.
Right.
Then there's a couple others where we're going, okay, I think the people are just a little guillotine happy. Guillotine happy. I'll be honest, some of them are. Did that king really deserve to be, dethroned?
And see,
I don't know.
The French are so revolutionary that they're like, hey, let's revolt against this king, and then let's just make an emperor.
And then let's revolt against them. And just keep revolting. Just over
it's a
and over.
Rubik's Cube of, fuck you, authority. So,
yeah.
Rocchio's not saying that at all. We're extending, but
we're pontificating.
Here's some. So on that theme, I think we got to the crux of the theme. And then there was interesting sections with the Commonwealth. Two big things of maybe what was Rocchio doing in this book that you could kind of read too much into, knowing the author and also seeing some of the symbolism in the books, like we saw in the last book, Demon in White, like the 40 days he was on Annika, and a couple of just symbolic numbers and so forth to see that could be referenced to the Bible. But do you see this all? I've seen this in some reviews of Hadrian being almost a Christ-like figure in like bearing the cross this
Oh,
book.
A
And
lot
at
now.
one point, I
Yeah.
think the cape he was given, they were calling him like King of the Vermin.
Mhm.
And obviously Jesus was called King of the Jews.
Mhm.
And the
And it was that the same point of King of the Jews from the Romans actually.
from the Romans' point of view was a
in
derogatory.
the same context of King of the Vermin. That's how
Yes.
they were saying it. It was an insult.
Yes, from the Romans it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you saw some of that too.
Oh,
yeah.
plenty.
Okay. Yeah.
I already talked about like him almost, or he was going to walk on water. He didn't. He was stopped at the last minute, but he was going to. And
yeah.
there was, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of other stuff, but I will say I have a quote here that
and
I
we
think
we also saw the Catholic in there. The in the Commonwealth, the
an actual Catholic.
The not rebels, like the people who they blame the rebels on. And I think the rebel said, and my God has a plan for you to Hadrian at one point. But yeah, you had a quote. Yeah.
I did have a quote, but that's an aside here.
Yeah.
Of I think the powers that the Quiet give Hadrian and how it operates. I think in the Sun Eater universe, I think it is a decent theory that Jesus Christ was actually, was seen by the Quiet. The amount of quite the resurrection from the dead of, obviously that one, but I think even some of the other stuff of choosing reality in which someone is not blind. So like him, like the Quiet working through someone else and going like, hey, you were the blind, and swapping them out with an alternate reality of which they were never blind in the first place.
Yeah.
Or when turning water into wine, chooses
and he made Alexander wine. Boo hoo.
Yes. Oh, I was thought other things, but yes.
No, I was making a pun.
Yes.
Anyways, go
it's
on.
fine.
Go
but no, pouring water and then choosing the reality where the person who filled the jug actually filled it with wine instead of water. All these things I'm going, yeah, I think in the Sun Eater universe, not in reality. Don't get ahead of yourself. Jesus Christ was actually visited by the Quiet.
I see what you mean.
It works.
You could say that.
Yeah.
But yes, you had a quote.
I had a quote that I think really defines both of our antagonists and kind of puts this book into context for our themes. Hadrian in the future tells us, those who wreak destruction and call it progress are ever enemies of eternity. I said, and spread another glance for my host, and truth. So the whole thing is, those who wreak destruction and call it progress are ever enemies of eternity and truth. For both the Commonwealth, it is trying to suppress any differences and celebration of life in the sense of, crush any individuality, crush any kind of difference between people. And they're willing to kill a lot of people to get that perfection and utopia and that progress. They constantly talk about, like, we're going to progress humanity to, this elevated utopian state.
Yeah.
Same thing with the extrasolarians of willing to destroy the human race for the sake of progress and progressing the human race with technology. The Cielsen, their idea of progress is ending everything.
Yeah.
And that is actually progress to eventually end up creating a different universe through their gods, the Watchers.
Right.
So I think that quote really hits home every
nice
villain
quote.
here.
Nice. Yeah. Anything else on thought-provoking this? I think this this one definitely, when I think back to Kings of the Death, will be very clear what the book was saying, and it's thoughtful, and it's also not to emphasize again, but the heartwarmingness at the end of the beauty of life.
Oh,
I love that it ends on a charming, cathartic note.
Yeah, and also some good bittersweetness and bittersweet turn to wholesomeness of we see the ramifications from what happened to Volca and the brain virus that she is now under, and it's gotten out, but she's still very affected by it and having these spasms every so often. And Hadrian now at the very end of the book is, sees these scars. It sees these scars from Volca, and he's realizing that kind of her looking at him and sees the amount of scars that he has, and he looks at her and goes, how could I ever judge Valka for her scars and the experiences we've had together? And she accepts me for mine. And there's a beautiful moment between the two that I really enjoyed.
Yes.
So,
that's awesome.
I loved it.
Nice. I guess, too, do you feel, last question on this part, do you feel that it's preachy at all? Do you feel, because we've complained in other books with the thought-provokingness and message going like, oh, it's on the nose, or it's preaching, or what do you think about this one? Does it feel preachy to you? Does it feel, no? And why is that? The
only point where maybe you could feel it too little on the nose would be the first section, with the
Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth.
Yeah.
I think everything else is handled very
like you think
authentically.
Let's talk about communism and yeah.
It's pretty on the nose. I think everything with Cielson is brilliantly done. All things with Hadrian. The main thing is all of the message of this story and the theme is tied so well with the characters and plot and the world that it doesn't feel preachy.
Right. I mean, regardless of the author too, that's Hadrian Marlowe. That's it's
been well developed. This is how Hadrian would respond. This is how it makes sense why the Cielson respond this way. All of this feels authentic to the story and not the author telling us something.
Yeah.
That's often when something feels preachy, it feels like the hand of the author is interrupting the story. I think that's kind of how I see when something's kind of preachy.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Because we're going to, after we finish this series, to have some talks with Jared Henderson and talk about the themes of the books. And so we'll get more into the details as it goes. Because, we'll want to go on to characters?
Yeah.
Characters out of 5 stars, what'd you give it?
I gave this one 5. Wow. Floored. Now,
I gave it a 4 stars. Great. That's our biggest disagreement.
A lot of this is I am floored with Hadrian's character in combination with these themes. I think it's wonderful character journey that he goes through. I empathize with him totally. I'm at a point of how could I ever replace Hadrian Marlowe? He is irreplaceable in this role.
Yeah.
That him along with all the beautiful little moments with some of the side characters, to me, one, Christopher Rocchio is squeezing every last drop out of Gibson. Every last character in the first book of just like, hey, look, we have this mentor character. He teaches, Hadrian languages and blah, blah, blah. And then he's gone. You go, okay, but by mentor character, we get so much juice out of him. Second book, all the mention, Hadrian remembering Gibson's words, always forward, always down, never left or right. Like all these good aphorisms. Wonderful. And then book 3, we actually get to see Gibson. What? Gibson's alive?
Whoa.
And you see, you're like, wow, that's amazing. And then you go, okay, well, that's...
Come on, you had that. I know
loved that.
I liked it too, but you saw it coming. I can't believe you didn't see it coming.
That one I didn't.
Oh, man.
No.
Quoting Gibson so much, it's like, all right, Gibson's coming back.
I just thought that was.
That's just a thing, yeah. Okay.
That was it.
But then book 4.
Yeah, and then book 4 again.
He was in cryogenic sleep for 500 years. He's back, baby.
He's getting a lot of juice out of that character.
Yeah.
That I did not expect after book 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So he utilized that character to the extreme. And especially, I think Gibson's ending here was so touching. And it was I loved the complete character journey with Gibson. He used it perfectly. Same thing with Valka. I love Valka and Hadrian together. Over time, their relationship is just so touching to read and interesting, especially a couple that have been together for hundreds of years at this point, off and on through cryosleep, all that junk. But fascinating character study between them. And Hadrian is just, chef's kiss, floored.
Yeah.
I love them all. And then all Polito. All of them, it hurts. So, I love the characters.
Yeah, Howling Dark, I gave 5 stars for characters, especially with Hadrian's character arc, turning from the boy into the man, and that switch that he made, and seeing how Hadrian from then on just became irreplaceable. And even Demon in White, this book, and this book, of course, Hadrian's like 5-star character for me. And I think this book more so, what affected my score was it emphasized, I think, Rocchio's biggest weakness to me, which is the side characters. And I think Hadrian and Valka, great and all that, but even Polino says the line when he's going out and dying of like, you're the only one that matters, Hadrian, and they all die. Hadrian is the only one that matters to that extent. Not that they are all, I mean, in this book, they are that cannon fodder-esque type, but I think up to this point, my emotional impact was lower and characters was lower because as these characters were dying, I kept caring because of how much it affected Hadrian, not just because like Ilax and Krim and Polino and Alana and all these characters. I realized as they died, I was
Captain Corvo.
Captain Corvo. She went.
What a woman.
But with all those side characters dying, I kind of realized, and sorry to compare it, but I have to compare it because when I'm looking at Sun Eater, I think the thought provokingness, world, prose, like just to name those categories, better than Red Rising. Mm-hmm. Red Rising, characters, often plots, and emotional impact, better than Sun Eater for me. Just when I'm comparing the two. So when I was looking at comparing it to other series of Red Rising, or just any other book, is able to have your main protagonist I care about and the whole cast. This one, why I'm hopeful, why I like this is because that whole cast is gone. So give me the juice.
Well, I'm assuming of the side characters, you care most emotionally about Valka. I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the only one that lives.
That's the only one that lives. Yeah. And I think all these other characters were able to die off and not be... I mean, think of their journey from books 1 to 3. They were like with Hadrian, and they were his Red Company. I don't think on their own, they were like, Polino was this essential part of their crew. Because Hadrian, when they're all sacrificing themselves from Hadrian, he has these superpowers with the Quiet where he is... in the power sense of Gary Stu, not as a character because he has flaws and internal conflicts. He is so powerful that when you look at a typical story of you have your protagonist protagging who like they're your one that has to fight the dragon, but then you have your you use this example, you know, like Rey Skywalker, and she's the good pilot, and she's also a good lightsaber duelist, and she's like she compits all those roles. Hadrian has his flaws, and Valka is more so the one that like brings out that intrigue in him. But the other characters, they're just support cast.
Well, the 3 that I think stand out the most that actually fill different roles than Hadrian himself is, of course, Hadrian. Like Valka clearly offers a lot in the plot and the narrative that Hadrian really can't do. And I would also say... the guy, I'm blanking on the guy who left. Lorien.
All the ones that live.
The only ones that, like Lorien is like several times throughout the story is like he is the better strategist. Like he very necessary. Hadrian is a good tactician. Lorien is a much better strategist for war. And Hadrian's like we've now had examples of just the entire battle in Demon in White. We see it. So I like that aspect of him. He fills a really good role, but someone like Polino is just, his value is his connection with Hadrian. That is his value. It just, as a fighter, Hadrian, can also do all the same stuff. So I get it, but I felt for those characters because of their connection to Hadrian.
Yeah, I think I was looking at those characters not realizing. I've always felt this from book 1. Just I'd never been the whole cast of characters has been Hadrian. It's his point of view. I'm invested. Let's go. Mm-hmm. Just as they all died, I was going like, oh yeah, what was their journey? Like, it's also tough because when you do a time skip each book and there's just new characters that they have a history with Hadrian that we're not aware of, and like we jump in and all of a sudden like Polino's on Ilax, Krim, Octavia, they're now with him in Howling Dark or Demon in White because they had a whole journey that we didn't get connected with them. So that's more so just as I'm happy they all died is what I'm saying. I'm ready to
you monster.
I'm invested in Valka and Hadrian and Lorien, not as much as how Hadrian and Valka, but now it's all the characters I care about. I'm so ready. Die side character pawns. Who the fuck cares about Polino? I'll say it. I'll say it.
Oh, you're.
I know.
In the comments, flame him.
Flame him. Flame me. Who cares? But then when
I have literally in my notes.
Yeah.
Polino, no!
Yeah,
That's literally my notes of like when I was reading that chapter. And the next one after that, Krim, don't leave us.
my notes was Polino says to Had, you're the only one that matters. Yeah, you're right.
You heartless bastard.
No, it's obviously the torture, like that scene. More so the en masse massacre was the stuff for me that was like, oh God, that's everybody Hadrian cares about. Shit.
The thing is, it's again talking about how there's the actual moment of death of his entire Red Company and also all of his friends and family. And then there's the quiet moment after that I think is much better of, it's one thing of just like right after the death. And then it's going home and realizing that nothing is the same. And like, then it really sits of, oh yeah, I have no connection to my home anymore. I have no connection to the Empire. I know nobody. He knows the only person he has a connection to that's still alive is Valka and Lorien. And I guess antagonistically, he still has a connection to the Emperor and Alexander. Mm. That is it. That's the extent of his relationships in the universe.
Is that crazy?
That's wild.
We're going on book 5.
Yeah. Now Gibson's gone in the best way possible. Gibson went out as you would hope anybody could.
With a
surrounded
here's
by
a truth bomb. Oh, I have a kid. I have a child. And dies with this like truth bomb of Gibson. What was your past?
Yeah. I thought we were going to get something. And we ultimately...
What do you mean get something?
Well, thought we were going to get more of an actual like...
conclusion?
We just got a tease of it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
No, but because to me, Gibson for this long has been a mentor figure to Hadrian. Father figure. And he has been the mentor archetype. What I liked about that little end there is it gives us, Gibson feels more real of having a past and a complicated history that we didn't touch on yet. I'm also sorry because it's hard to compare right now in my head. I'm reading Game of Thrones right now and like, my God. Oh my God. So when I'm looking at this, Hadrian is just so incredible as a character. So that's why I have it at 4 stars. Great. I'm just trying to be fair with my thoughts of all these side characters, especially, I want to ask you this. Doriaika and the villains. What do you think about the villain characters in this book?
Okay. I give characters a 5 stars and I'm giving a lot of grace about Doriaika. And I am choosing to believe that my feelings on Doriaika is due to the audiobook and not due to the actual book itself. Because I started questioning, like, who is this character in the sense of the reading of it.
What did he sound like?
A petulant child. Ultimately, like, not scary at all, not intimidating. It kind of sounded whiny all the time. It really didn't work. Very high-pitched. Well, all the other Cialson are lower pitched. I don't know. He sounded like a child. It didn't work for me.
Didn't work.
What about you?
Doriaika to me, because I did audiobook and had no physical for this one as well. You warned me there was a character that was off. As soon as I heard Doriaika's voice, I went, oh, that's it. So I somehow consciously, I was like ignoring the voice itself. I was consciously making that, like, going, no, that Doriaika doesn't sound like that in my head. But if Doriaika does, then it just feels like it's a setup for something, as in, Doriaika is not meant to be
the guy. It's not the end villain, not a proper foil for Hadrian. The voice put it into perspective of it. Well, also, this is not just the voice, but it's also the plot in the sense of Demon in White, Hadrian beats Doriaika. Kings of Death, Doriaika basically wins in the sense of he killed all Hadrian's friends, but ultimately Hadrian does get away, and so foils Doriaika at the last minute again, though how much you could say, like, I would say Doriaika still won that day. But they fought, and just
gets out of his crutches again.
Yeah, there's the moment where Doriaika is like, what are you? And just like that, you know what I mean? It's a game of hierarchy where I feel like Hadrian knows more than Doriaika. Like, yeah, Doriaika is powerful. He's got that army. But when he's talking about the Watchers, I'm seeing it more, The Watchers really aren't sharing everything with you, and clearly not as you were not at the same level that the Quiet is with Hadrian. That the Quiet are showing him far more potential futures, not just the one hand-picked and chosen. Because if Doriaika was same level of connection as Hadrian, he would know, like, oh, there are actually multiple futures. Like, this is a possibility. And he wouldn't be so focused on it being the only inevitability. Then beyond that, it's all the powers. Clearly, Doriaika has none of the powers of the Quiet.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. But it's just a permanent, like, Doriaika is second fiddle to Hadrian.
But Hadrian, in all of his futures, he didn't see a way he escaped Doriaika, but up to that point, if I'm recalling correctly, where he always saw him dying to Doriaika and all the possibilities. But then when he got there, he found a way.
No, I mean...
Isn't that right?
Not completely. So when he was at the mountaintop with the Quiet, he did see all of the futures of him, destroying the sun and, like, all of these inevitabilities or possibilities. Not just... He wasn't, like, capped at, like, that moment with Doriaika. But after he came down from the mountaintop, he saw that he basically, by the end of book 3 through book 4, he could only see that future.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yeah, but like, so he does know there are other inevitabilities. There's other. He knows that the future isn't just set in stone. He's seen other things that are possible. He's seen himself destroy the Cielsen.
Yes, I'm talking about, like, he kept seeing his head chopped off leading up to that moment. Like, he thought it was an inevitability in the book. Like, he was losing connection to the. He doesn't understand the power, essentially.
Yeah,
which that can be plot. Do you have anything else on characters with Urbane or Severine?
I mean, I loved all of them of what they offer to Hadrian as a character. Again, the reason why I'm giving it 5 I loved everything with the Extrasolarians, Urbane, how much you hate him. The other Extrasolarian that's with him, I'm trying to remember the name. What was hers? Whatever.
Severine?
Severine.
Yeah.
Severine, amazing. I love their dynamic between them and the Cielsen, and Hadrian just kind of calling them on their shit of going, yeah, you guys think you're so much better than us, and, like, you just sold out your race to the Cielsen. Like, they're gonna kill everyone. How do you think that this is progress? Like, you guys are idiots. You're just saving yourselves. That's all it is. It's just power. Trying to be all noble. Anyway.
Best character was the guy who betrayed him in the Commonwealth, and Hadrian just kills him. Remember?
Oh,
the betrayal. Yeah. He's like, and Hadrian goes, "Nah, fuck you."
Yeah.
Dead.
The guy was just there going, yeah, no.
Like, you're giving side character energy. Die. Hadrian told him, "This is not your book, bro." And we have
he was pretty arrogant for a guy, like, in that real hostile situation. Like,
yeah.
He was a little too confident to be betraying Hadrian Marlowe right to his face with lots of weapons around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know if he should have been that confident.
But hey, I'm very curious because now, like you said, the connection is we've got Hadrian, Valka, Emperor Alexander, Lorien. There's several people he knows and that are left here.
But mostly antagonists, like Consagara.
Mostly antagonists, yeah.
He does have enemies still,
he does.
But he only has a handful of, like, 2 friends in the universe now.
Yeah.
Lorien and Valka.
Yes, exactly. We'll see how it continues because I obviously like Hadrian so much that it keeps me enjoying the book and the characters. But with my significant drawback so far has been the side characters. With them gone, maybe I'll like Ash as a Man more than other people because it's who's left in the narrative. But do you want to go on to plot?
Sure.
So, plot out of 5 stars.
Plot, I gave it a 4.5. Spectacular plot.
I gave 4.25. Really great plot.
There we go.
Yeah. So, promise, progress, payoff. We talked, there's the Commonwealth section setting you up. The progress portion is, the fun and games of the torture and
Hadrian torturing.
And the end is your reprieve with Gibson and Valka that go 28 years. It's actually really easy to think about this plot in retrospect, which I appreciate. Going
easier than Demon in White.
Yeah.
A lot more arcs in Demon in White. Yeah. This one had 3, mostly.
So I'm going to go full criticism at first and wrap around to why I do love this book. But the trope I was talking about before of not killing the good guy, etc. And I know that Doriaika is so certain he sees the future, he knows he's going to kill Hadrian. He believes in these gods, the Watchers, so of course. But of course, we know Hadrian's going to live. So it's like that. Of course, Doriaika thinks this, audience, the reader, knows Hadrian will survive. And it's one of those things that as Doriaika is like revealing things about the Cielsen and showing the world and giving information about their culture, et cetera, to Hadrian. Obviously, from reader's end, it's going like, oh, you're giving away secrets to Hadrian who's going to live. Doriaika's end is, well, Hadrian's going to die. I'm going to kill him. And I'm just torturing him and I'm making him convulse and die. So it's that trope where I was kind of referring to before that I don't like the trope, but Rocchio did it in a way that made me understand, okay, from Doriaika's point of view, it makes sense. And although I'll begrudgingly go like, I don't like the good guy, bad guy keeping the other alive just for a plot, it's weaved in to make sense and also compelled me because Hadrian's inner monologue and as I also felt emotional with it too. So that's my balance of why it's not my favorite plots. It's straightforward, but handled well. Do you get me?
A pushback as well on Doriaika and why he keeps Hadrian alive. I don't think it's just about the Watchers showing him the potential future and he thinks he has it in the bag.
No, it's lots of stuff. Yeah, I agree.
I think the other one is for his convictions of this being, he wants to end all life and destroy the entire universe. That takes a lot. He is fully convinced. He has his convictions, but something that would solidify that is breaking the avatar of Hadrian, the Quiet. And it's important to him for Hadrian to understand the Watchers and the Cielsen completely, and then make him lose all hope. And it's like going, okay, I'm not just right because I actually am able to do it. I'm right because I've broken the avatar of the enemy. So he wants to win that more about it and like I think convince himself as well or solidify the
I want to be clear. Like I'm saying two things. One, I hate the trope. Two, he doesn't do it wrong. Like he handles it. It makes sense. It's just you present something.
It's a preference.
It's a preference. I don't like the trope, but Rocchio writes it in a way to where, of course, Doriaika would do this and keep Hadrian alive. So it's just that thing. Because I guess for you, is there something about you gave it 4.5 stars? What was spectacular about it?
I think it's very impressive. So I love the beginning and ending. I think well paced.
Yeah,
really thrilling, twist turns, fun. Like I said before, I thought it was going to. I thought the Commonwealth, it was going to be a twist of it was going to be the AI because I thought it makes so much more sense. But obviously, I thought then that would turn into somehow going to the Cielsen. Like I knew that was happening at some point in this book because cover, Kings of Death. Like I just kind of knew from the previous book, but I thought the AI was in there for some point. Beside the point. Loved all that, but the progress section of Hadrian being tortured really could have, in different hands, felt gratuitous at some point. But I think Christopher weaves in enough stuff throughout these many scenes that it's important to feel the length of he was tortured for 7 years, I think.
Yes. Yep.
In different ways, different types of emotional and mental manipulation. Wonderful to see not just, you were poking with a stick for, 7 years or, we're just hitting him. It was more. So I liked that. We learned more about the Quiet. All that woven together made it incredibly interesting all the way through. So. Yeah.
It's one of we just read Discovery by J.J. Minton. Fantastic book. That plot being 5 stars, it's so complex and floored me in that way. There's something that I can appreciate about simple in quotes plots where you're able to describe this plot very easily.
Straightforward.
Straightforward
plot.
Very straightforward, not simple as in like, caveman can do it, but straightforward plot where I guess in general, I know our editor Nick doesn't like when we talk about pacing, but the pacing of the book felt strangely correct for how long we were in that torture section, because you were just referring to there was enough sections of the cloning opportunity for Hadrian to deal with. Doriaika dragging Hadrian along, killing all of the Cialcin. And then we have the 90,000 Red Company dying and the big battle scene at the end. It feels like those sections are interwoven with, I think one of the pull-through things here, which is my greatest investment in the series, is the world building it creates and the information that Doriaika does give to Hadrian gives enough understanding of the culture and answers while also creating more mystery. And I say that a lot when it comes to the best way of kind of pulling a reader along is give information, but that information you give should lead to you asking many more questions. And it did that for me constantly here. So that's where I really liked it. Am I head over heels over the plot? No, I think I would say Howling Dark, Demon in White had better plots. For sure.
I personally would say Demon in White has a better plot than this book as well. There were a couple moments that didn't gel as well for me.
Yeah, what's that?
The dream sequence, I thought, when Hadrian was thrown into the cell before he was taken to the Council of Cialcin, basically.
Yeah.
And he gets to see the ancestors of the Cialcin, or ancestors of the advocates of the Watchers, like worshippers of the Watchers.
Like the first species?
Yes.
You
got it.
The Anur? Oh, no.
Pick a word.
The Anur. The crabs.
The crabs. The crabs.
I had this down here too, damn it.
I thought that scene was kind of confusing. And like it was kind of hard. It was just kind of hard to read. Like I actually, so I guess I kind of lied about it. I don't have a physical copy. I do have an ebook version of Kingdom to Death. I had to reread that chapter again.
Oh, okay.
Of like, I was confused. And I'm like, okay, wait, what's going on? Who's in relation? So much was happening, and then just snap back to, oh, it's a dream sequence. I'm like, I don't know.
Dang,
didn't work as well for me.
That surprises
overall.
me. Wow.
I was a little confused.
That
I don't hate it. It's not like I really just like
what
it. Just
threw you off about that scene?
Just how it was structured and what was thrown at us. I didn't. Again, I guess the point, didn't know what was real or not, and didn't know how significant things were going, and I don't know. That dream sequence itself didn't land with me. Even though that stuff is important information.
I'm a dream sequence hater, so I'm surprised it worked better for me than you. That's because for me it was like it was obvious that it was a dream because he's being tortured, like he's not escaping, and it's like all of this is supposed to be at the very least. I thought it could have been more psychological torture that they were doing to him. But sorry, I'm going aside. But that whole section I thought was just more world building stuff. I guess I wasn't focused on that. It was just, you're saying it was confusing when you read it the first time, you had to reread it, and it was enough to go, oh, I didn't understand it, so
I had to reread. I was just lost on a lot of stuff there, so I had to reread it.
Okay.
There was that, and then that was about it. Plot-wise, I guess that's about it, other than like specific things that didn't work for me. Other than I loved the ending. I think I would rate the plot maybe a bit lower if that ending didn't hit
I
the
agree.
way it is. That ending was the perfect choice for this book. I loved it. I think the highlight of the book for me is how he ended it.
Yeah, it's hard to rate a plot super high if it's just torture the whole time. I mean, that's the plot, right? And what does it for me too is that even the between the torture and between the Gibson and Oncultus ending is that him and Velka in the spaceship and in the Actorumu. No, that's the city. Damn it. I should have wrote that down.
It's the space shuttle.
It's the shuttle that starts with an A, but that shuttle is when they were going back and forth and talking about who's going to stay there, and Hadrian deciding to stay for 28 years. I'm just going, he was just tortured the whole time. Oh, it gets
now
even more grueling. And so
alone again. Though then again, you look back on the the life of Hadrian Marlowe, how much time he wants to, and he's deliberately spent alone on the Tamerlane, which I liked. Again, it's some of this just culmination of these stories of Hadrian knowing the Tamerlane inside and out, of a lot of it because during the long trips through space, he's one of the only people awake, and he explores the Tamerlane and he runs through these different patches. Like, he knows it so well because he spent so much solitude within that ship. So he knew he didn't need a map to go through these complicated, like the Tamerlane's like upside down on the side, and he's able to navigate through things because of that solitude, and then he comes back again. So I like that aspect of Hadrian a lot.
Yes.
He always feels like he has to be on. And now he wants to be able to be himself, I guess. And he can't do that around people. And then the one time that he gets to have his solitude, and it's probably the worst time he ever could. And it's just kind of heartbreaking, their discussion for it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Of like, he finally gets it, but after all that, now I don't want it.
Alone with your thoughts after 7 years of torture is maybe not the best.
Yeah.
Then again, he did have, I think, 2 years with Valka.
Yeah, or less, something like that. But
something like that.
Okay, still, so 25, 26 years.
Yeah. Then again, that's just the whole thing with Sun Eaters. How do we perceive time? It's just different. A year to Hadrian is not the same as a year to us. And it's hard to think of it
which
that
is why
way.
he says Valka should be the one going in Cairo.
Yeah, because he has a longer lifespan than her, even though she has a longer lifespan than the average human.
Yeah.
Because being Tevrosi, but still.
Yeah. So do you want to talk anymore on plot?
Let me look through my notes. That's good. I'm good on plot.
I would say now's the time to say this. If it wasn't for the world and prose for this book, I would give this lower at like a 4.25 overall. 4 to 4.25. Well, or I'd say 4.2. It would probably drop by a little bit because to me, where this shines again, world building 5 stars for me. I would give it. I was floored by the world building.
World building was a 4.5 for me.
Oh, spectacular for you.
Spectacular.
Okay. Well, we talked about the sections again. We have Commonwealth world building, Cielson world building. That's the 2 main points of this.
That is it.
I thought that the first point about this, let's talk about that first section first with the Commonwealth. I thought it was so neat how everything about the society, at least superficially about the society, was ingrained in having this equal perception and trying to force it even down to their language. I thought that was just expertly done, where Rocchio's strong suit that I've noticed from Howling Dark up to this point, what I love about Howling Dark was the negotiation between the Cielson and how language barrier affected the negotiation strategies and how it was frustrating for Hadrian to get beyond. And now in this book, he's showing another angle of language where the Commonwealth speaks in their own quotes, or they can only say things that have been
pre-approved statements and responses, basically from their founding book. And Hadrian puts there as like they are a society of book burners built off the back of a book.
Yeah.
So that's the peak irony.
Peak irony. And that entire focus on language was so cool, and I bet Rocchio is going to continue to do that with. But it's just a strong suit about his world building, and a quote that kind of explains the Commonwealth as well. Hadrian says, "They think their doubt makes them clever," and just that the theme and just world building surrounding the Commonwealth about. And this is what happens. We see with the extra Solarians in Howling Dark, where the cloning and changing the human body and the message about the ship of Theseus and humans in book 2, whereas book 4 it's showing again what happens with extreme technology, extreme progress, or regress, essentially, that not all progress is actually progress. There are
often change is just confused for progress.
Yeah.
Progress is not...
It's not an ever forward cycle of where things are always getting better.
There's a reason the Dark Ages exist.
The Renaissance means
history does not march ever forward in positive directions all the time.
Yeah. And it's just, I'm learning lessons about world building from this. It's just fascinating that his focus on language, the Commonwealth also showing the, I'm now starting to get more of the galactic pictures about the Judeans, I believe, Jadians, who they're the ones that clone, have like several hundred million clones that they don't want to use for the armies, but might. And so that's very cool to know as well. Commonwealth, as they were negotiating with Hadrian, were trying to get back some of this no man's land territory that they kind of agreed upon after some war happened between the two, where they said, hey, there's a bunch of these planets that we're not touching, and to make a deal with Hadrian, they're like, okay, we get to now bring life and start to
expand into
that territory. Yeah. I'm starting to get more of the galactic sense of this, and that's just the first like 20% of the novel, which I was already going, holy crap! And then we get the entire novel of the Cielsen, the Watchers, the Quiet. Something I didn't mention in world building, but like the Hadrian's powers, or sorry, in plot that I didn't mention. Hadrian's powers. I want to ask you before I gush out my thoughts, just because I'm more confused, but Hadrian's powers, what did you think about how that was handled in the book? And I don't know if this is more plot or world, it's both of them kind of, but how would you say, how was it handled? What do you understand about it?
This is something I don't dislike, but I'm also not wowed by how it's handled. I feel like Rocchio, especially very early on in the book, kind of walked himself back a few steps from Demon in White, of deliberately giving us moments of Hadrian using his new powers, but it causes a pain. So like if he uses it too much, he gets a headache and can't focus, and trying to walk it back of his not complete omnipotence, but in a weird way, in the sense of there's aspects where I like it, and like how it's limited in the sense of, especially when he is choosing the future with the soldier on, like, soldiers trying to open a door, and he explaining of, I don't know how to open the door. That, like, if I was here, there's no like feasible reality in which I would ever open the door. That's not possible. However, I am leaning on the skills and experience of the soldier. Like, there is many possibilities where he does open the door. And that's what he's being chosen. I'm like, good. That's a really good explanation of like the limits of his powers. But I think one of the early ones is just like, he uses it and it's like, oh, I've used it too much. I can't focus anymore. Not as enjoyable of a limitation of just it's just like what a status bar. I don't know. He's running low on mana. Like, I don't know.
Again, I did put that in the plot as well. So again, I was talking about the trope of the bad guy not killing good, which is really well done. Like, I get it. The quiet power thing of, we see him in the past book shooting himself and surviving, and then surviving the laser blast. And in this moment, which we didn't even really talk about in plot, but he gets back to the quiet in that power, gets a sword out of thin air and cuts off his chains to then defeat Doriaika. And the power works at that moment. So the tough thing about this power is, how do you make it so that it doesn't feel like it can just happen when Rocchio wants it to happen? That's starting
to feel a little bit like that.
It's a very difficult plot issue, I give it. Like, it's affecting plot. And like, I'm trying to get a more concrete, like, okay, that's a complaint I have there. When it comes to world building, like, I'll give a paragraph of what it describes here for the power. Oh yeah, go ahead.
To give that specific context, I think the Quiet controlling Hadrian and actually utilizing these powers is the extreme. And Hadrian in Demon in White is able to take away a portion of it, being able to choose a reality. But the Quiet from Howling Dark, they didn't just give Hadrian back his life. One, they left the corpse of, like, the head was there.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit more extreme of like, no, he's fully dead.
Yeah.
The body's still there, and now Hadrian's come back alive, complete and in a different location, also has his sword. Like, the sword is also he got 2 copies of his sword as well. So he brought an item through the different reality. That's what the Quiet is able to do. Demon in White, Hadrian couldn't do that. He could only pick in the fraction of a second which reality to choose, not fully like resurrect or anything like that.
Yeah.
And now it seems like in Kingston of Death, in a moment of crisis, he is able to take one step further and able to manifest items from other realities as well and meet one of his alternate selves. His alternate self is quite literally helping him.
Yes. And to the point where I'm saying complaint with a small c, because these things, like when I'm talking about this trope, when I'm talking about this, it's just things about the future plot. I'm going, okay, there's a lot I don't know at this point, obviously. And it's explained well, but the other point I'm looking at this, I could see the Quiet also wanting Hadrian to undergo this torture, because how else to get your pawn, your avatar, to fight for you than have you hate the Cielson to being willing to destroy his son? Like,
true.
I could see throughout this entire section of the Quiet, like, don't want to give him all the tools quite yet, because are you really going to destroy a son if, like, they killed all of your friends? They killed everyone you know, and now festering their avatar Hadrian to do this. So I could see why the Quiet maybe weren't giving him all the tools or blocked his access in some ways. So in that regard, so that's why plot, it's not like the most satisfying moment, because it is cool to know the limits and you know, you don't want it to come out of nowhere. But then as far as the world building goes, why I think it's so compelling is the Quiet have a plan. There's stuff I don't know and understand. And I think by the end of the series, like, I'll look at these mini parts of it and go like, well, that's why this was able to happen, and this was able. So that's why for me it is a more compelling world point. But the plot, it's like, okay, I'm not fully there, but I get it. I'm not distrusting you. You get what I mean in those two.
I'm in a similar position. However, there are the moments. I just think the idea of Hadrian's powers being limited, kind of by focus, of like he just couldn't focus.
Oh yeah,
comes across a little bit plot. The opposite of plot armor, basically, of some moments like, in the heat of battle and all this stuff, like Hadrian's able to focus and he's able to use his power. But then when Paulino's dying, he can't focus and choose the reality where Paulino doesn't die. So why couldn't he? He seems to be able to, and sometimes he can't. I would probably appreciated a couple scenes of just a scene of him actually trying to use his powers against to save his friends, and something blocks him. You know what I mean? Then that comes across the Christ. Like, he's trying, he's in the zone, and the minute he tries to save him, like, I can't pick the vision disappears. Oh, and then the Quiet blocking him of like going, we're gonna save you, but the Quiet going, no, I want all your friends dead, so you actually will push the button and kill the Cielson. Something like that, not just he could focus here, but he can't focus here, and just
there was some scenes like that where was it Ilax or I forget Krim that was dying. They were like, hey, save him, Hadrian. They're like begging Hadrian to save him,
and Hadrian's like, I can't.
Hadrian, well, it's in that too. I'm not fully decided, because again, it's a plot issue for me, not a world, because the reasoning behind it, I knew this would happen from the last book of him having so many powers. Like, how do you follow that up? I mean, how else do you follow that up of like he's invincible to other than the limits being
it's probability.
Because like, let's say for example, that probability aspect where he says he explains to the reader, like, there's a moment in this where he says, hey reader, I know what you're probably thinking. Like, infinite possibilities are there. Why can't you just do whatever? Why don't I just choose it? Well, you'd be wrong to think that things are infinite. There's only in the infinite possibilities, there's only select stuff in the menu. Again, says it better than I can in the book. But it's
when
not,
he tries to pick just reality where the flower never wilted, and he just like looking through all infinite possibilities, like, that's in the past. It's done. It has wilted. It is not. He can't pick a future word.
The door scene you used, like, so that is brought up enough to go. It explains to me and keeps me invested, like, immersed in the scene. Again, it's like, hey, it'll work when Hadrian and the Quiet need it to work.
Well,
however,
also Demon in White handles it really well in the sense of when Hadrian is about to be blasted with the laser beam, he's going like, wow, you picked the one thing that actually I can dodge. Like, one sure thing. It's easy for Hadrian to avoid a singular thing.
Yeah.
The reason why, like, you put a horde of Cielson against him, he'll actually probably lose, is because, he can choose one future where this Cielson doesn't stab him, but there's three more behind him. Like, he's not going to pick, there's not a reality in which he dodges all of them at once. Again, there's too many options.
And therefore, for his friends, it's like if there's 10 Cielson on his friends, how does he save his friend?
But the scenes that we got were a little different, where honestly, I think it would have been pretty heartbreaking in the sense of he does pick reality, and I would like to see him choose the reality in which, like, Krim is not stabbed by this, but then there's this next one he grabs, he's shot by an arrow. Like, there's just so many different ways that his friends die, and all of them end that way. Instead of, because how it's presented in this book is just like, it got killed by the one. Like, several of them, it was like the one thing. Couldn't you choose the different one?
Yeah. Again, that's all plot stuff too. Like that stuff. So retroactively going back to plot, explain more of that. But then on the world aspect, it talked about Commonwealth, and the question I have about the Quiet and the Watchers of how much did you love about that world building aspect? I know I gave it higher than you, but did you?
Oh, I love the Commonwealth stuff. That was great.
Yeah. What about the Cielson and all the lore and the world building we got behind them?
I really hate that we got it through Doriaika's voice. That might
have affected you a bit with that. Okay.
It probably did.
Yeah.
I think I accounted for it in my ratings. I don't think I let it affect my ratings. But overall enjoyment of the book definitely suffered because of that. I'm telling you guys, like, the voice really is the wrong choice. Great voice narrator for novels. Really love his work. This was just, in my opinion, a poor creative decision. So, this is what it is.
Yeah.
But no, the Cielson, very interesting. Their culture is just so brutal. We're getting to a point of, when you read the book one, and it's the real moral quandary of, like, wow, Hadrian wiped out billions of his own people to completely eradicate the Cielson species. You go, that's pretty extreme and pretty hot. That's pretty harsh. And, like, you go, oh man, there's a lot of guilt on Hadrian's plate. The Cielson are getting to a point of evil, of going, yeah, I get it. Like,
they're just getting there for you?
Not just, but you know what I mean? Of without, like, it's becoming more of a no-brainer of, like, anyone would push that button, because, like, you don't, and human species is gone. Like, I'm not a utilitarian, but actually when faced with extinction, it's like X billion or the ending of the human race incomplete. And not just the ending of them, but the worst way possible of enslavement and basically cattle for food. And, like, it's becoming more of a, you push that button.
My prediction for the end of the series, like end of book 7, when who knows when the Sun Eater thing happens, the actual eating of the sun happens. My prediction is the theme and message would be, and it's something I agree with, is the ends don't justify the means.
But they explain it.
They explain the means. And it will be kind of a thing to show, like, hey, it's not what is justice in this case, but it explains, and, like, the human in you would do it, even if there's a lot of wrong there.
Yeah.
Which makes it morally gray and interesting. And
Hadrian is still culpable, but 100 to 1, like, almost everyone pushes that button if you go through what Hadrian goes through.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the point.
Yeah. And for the world here, why this floors me, or talk Commonwealth, the Watchers seeing the Anar or Anor, the past crab species, this entire death cult, as you well explained perfectly. The Cielson as a creature and culture and the languages that Rocchio puts here, I could not be more invested in the world of the Sullen Empire, and just I'm on board through and through. So is there something that you didn't like as much, or you just looked at and it bugged you, or was it just more so, hey, you like the world building and the other book's better, or like, I guess, do you have criticism at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, not particularly criticism, but in the sense of, I think I liked the world building with Demon and White a little bit more, just a smidge.
Oh, I'd agree. Yeah.
Just because we get more different cultures, and like even this one's a lot more focused, but that focus on the Cielson is mostly more of the same. It's more of like, we kind of knew most of this stuff already. We get a few new details, but it's just more evidence to what we already knew for the most part.
How cool is the giant skeleton head of the Watcher gods?
That's always great.
I mean, I'm visualizing going, holy shit, that's cool. And so I got to say, even seeing the planets where they're from, which the planet is called pronunciations, Doran-Tun, the capital of Doriakin's Dominion.
Doran-Tun.
Wait, no. Yue is the Cielson planet, which is the equivalent of Earth, and Octarumu is the great city of Yue, temple inside Massive Skull. That's what it is. And then the Mudanars, the Dreamers, and getting to see that, and like I get your point, but I was floored. I was floored by the world.
No, I loved it, but I will say, for people listen, you like that scene with, like, think the imagery of the skull, like giant god skull being like the temple, all that stuff. Maybe check out little John Gwen Shadow of the Gods.
Yeah.
Where the entire city is in the skull of gigantic snake god.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's so cool. One of the best fantasy maps in the market. It's awesome. But that's my praise for that book.
Nice. Did you have anything else on world?
No. Spectacular world building.
Then what do you think of Prose out of 5 stars?
4.75. Fucking spectacular.
Agreed. 4.75 stars. Absolutely spectacular.
If Rocchio can do anything, that man can write. That man knows how to put pen to paper.
Yeah.
God, he is a wordsmith. He is everything I wanted from... that's too much.
From what? What?
It's everything I wanted from Patrick Rothfuss.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get all the purple poetry. I love just Hadrian giving us wonderful just references, philosophical ramblings.
Monologuing.
It's all wonderful.
Yeah.
But also filled with good characters and interesting themes, rather than Name of the Wind, where beautiful poetry and prose, but everything else sucked. So Chris Rocky's got it all.
Yeah, especially the prose is the, again, frosting for me. I mean, it's already packaged in something I enjoy, and now you're just making it sound so much more real, visceral, describing scenes incredibly well. I think if we're to do something helpful here and break down his prose in a way, would you agree that his Rocchio prose and his expertise is more so in that the monologuing, describing, and using analogies in a way that is very true to Hadrian's character and his view of the world, so that he's able to look at the Commonwealth and look at the Cielson, and as he describes these things and looks at the classics of that we understand on Earth, and using the aphorisms of Gibson, he then makes these certain statements, and he has this stoic ability to make declarative statements, but while also leaving the intrigue still in there. So something with his prose, he's able to make it sound concrete and declarative, to where I'm like, yes, sir, Hadrian. You know, it sounds like he's commanding the reader in a way, like it's demanding the reader to listen to him. It's Hadrian's journal. It's Hadrian saying this. So
also you see the leader that Hadrian's become.
Exactly.
Because it's not all of that, all those wonderful messaging in book 1 and 2, more so book 2 than book 1. It's future Hadrian that has the great nuggets of wisdom to really, like, those monologues are really great.
Yeah.
But present day Hadrian in Howling Dark is not the same. But Hadrian's not the leader that he is. He's becoming a leader. He's becoming the guy that people look up to. And then in Demon in White, he is the man. He is your stoic, not stoic, but as best as you can be, tries to be stoic leader with a moral authority that people do listen to. And so to some degree in books 3 and 4, past Hadrian carries the same narrative or poetic weight that future Hadrian also does, which is, again, a change. You start to see past Hadrian slowly become more and more like future Hadrian, which is the point of this narrative framing.
Yes. It's delightful. It's delightful to read. And I would say, I can give a quote, small quote. Here's a paragraph. Now hear this. The old words seem to drift back to me on the wind, carried by the ocean airs from world to world. Here's a lesson no Torah primate of the college will ever teach you, if it can even be taught. The world's soft the way the ocean is. Ask any sailor what I mean. But even when it is its most violent, Hadrian, focus on the beauty of it.
Ah, good old Gibson. Gonna miss the Gibson aphorisms.
Yes.
Though then again, we have Hadrian. Hadrian will carry it forward.
Yes.
I have another quote for you.
Yes, please.
This is after Hadrian is in the shuttle with Valka and about to go under like these 28 years on his own, and him reflecting on his time in silence. And so we get this this statement from future Hadrian. In writing, I dissolved my madness and my sorrow both, for it is the peculiar nature of words to trap feelings larger than themselves, and so reduce those forces and passions which might overthrow us to objects we can handle and name: sorrow, grief, fear, pain. I called them each by name.
Nice.
Which,
nice
by the
quote.
way, that quote right there, I think is a lot of what Name of the Wind should have been about.
It should have been about anything else.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's about the stories you tell, and like writing it down you were able to take these confusing feelings and this pain and being able to put a name to it. You know what? And when you can name it, when you can see it on the page, you can in some way confront it. A lot easier than this amalgamous feeling, or the vague ideas and the pain that you feel.
Yeah.
So a wonderful reason of why Hadrian's writing this whole book series in the first place.
That's a good quote. And I feel like this is one of those books we've done it before where you open up a page, read it, and go, oh, doesn't that sound so good? A couple, why not the 5? You always ask me that when I give 4.75s. Why not the 5, huh? Is it the Doriaika voice?
It may be. But I actually don't like the dialogue as much with the Cielsen mostly.
Okay.
A lot of it felt more, world building stuff, not necessarily great dialogue.
Oh, gotcha.
Comparatively, like the best dialogue scenes in the book or in the torture scenes is between Hadrian and the Extrasolarians. That has some of the best back and forth and really intriguing dialogue.
Yeah.
For the most part, what is Doriaika and the rest of the Cielsen just doing? They're just gloating at him and like, haha, Hadrian, you're wrong. And like, death, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not as good as some of the other stuff. But small potatoes.
Small potatoes, yeah.
Teeny tiny.
But that is, so overlooking then the review of Kingdoms of Death, it looks like, your favorite was you loved the characters, and that's what elevated to the 4.75 stars. Absolutely spectacular book. Would you say, looking back as we've had this discussion, I think I'm putting Kingdoms of Death to 3rd. The more I talked about, I think I like Demon in White more. So I'm gonna go Howling Dark, Demon in White, Kingdoms of Death, but this is still a 4.5, like spectacular book for me.
Yeah, the more I think about the themes, especially of the book, I think back to on themes the most.
For this, yeah, you're right.
The series, to me, is still Howling Dark.
Oh no, that floored me. That
Howling Dark's themes blew me away, and that's what I still think about.
And his character journey there. Boom.
Yeah, it's the most dramatic change that Hadrian's gone through, I think, which I think next book, we're going to see a lot of potential for that,
Yeah.
especially book 3 Hadrian to
so
book 5.
excited.
Ooh, I'm interested.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thought-provoking nature in this book is better than Demon in White, but I think Demon in White has a better paced
It's more
plot.
fun in air quotes.
It is more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard thing, but I think I would agree with you in the sense of Demon in I may put it through as well of Demon in White, Howling Dark,
And Kingdoms of Death.
Kingdom of Death. I don't know. I'm between 2 and 3.
We'll see. By the end of the series, we'll have more firm opinions on where it places.
Yeah.
But I guess just more I talked about this one, like spectacular book. What elevated from me is world, prose, and thought provokingness. I guess this is a very cool thing to see. I want to see how the series looks at the end. But I already said this once in the episode. Want to emphasize that for me, Sun Eater does like that. The themes, the prose, and the world better than Red Rising. Whereas Red Rising for me does the emotion, characters, and plots better. So like, as comparing, this one makes me think and I'm immersed, and also has great story, like amazing story with character Hadrian that I love, just as the side characters I have complaints of. Whereas Red Rising does like fast-paced plot and all the characters I love and like the emotional highs. But then, the like the world building as the story goes on, I'm like, I like it. It's great.
Yeah.
Not as good as this one.
I think that's
the themes are great, but not as good as this one.
I feel somewhat similar to you. The only thing is I like Hadrian Marlowe more than any character in Red Rising. But you're definitely right of Red Rising has the cast that I love more than the cast of Sun Eater.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a fair comparison in the sense
it's a different thing.
It's a different book. It's
different
focus.
Yeah.
Completely get it. I think I do like the plot of Sun Eater so far more so than Red Rising. And that's mainly because I'm factoring in the plot of like Heir 2 to me.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, here's
Also,
what I'd say
everyone
too,
does,
just to give some insight.
But emotional impact, I get your point. Like, the deaths hit hard.
Don't spoil for people, but yeah, there's
people
deaths.
die.
People die. Yeah, I don't want you to. Hey, sometimes you're a quick trigger and you go the deaths with character XYZ. I just wanted to stop you.
That's fair. I have been known to do that.
But also some insight here. So I gave Kingdoms of Death that's my rating. But for Dark Age in Red Rising, it's a 5-star book for me. So as far as like the gruesome grittiness, all that emotion goes, I have read better. So I will say that. For me, and that's a controversial, like some people will say this is better than Dark Age. I would go Dark Age, then Kingdoms of Death for my personal preference.
To me, it's close.
That's fair.
Yeah, I love Dark Age. Dark Age was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it a lot.
Both books are.
Both good book.
But you have to make a declarative statement like Hadrian does. Command the audience.
Which
one is better? If you had to pick, I'm taking Dark Age as my side.
Yeah, I'll take Hadrian Marlowe.
Just Hadrian, not the book. I'll take.
Hadrian's doing a lot of lifting in this series, obviously.
Yeah.
His character alone elevates it to new levels that other series may have their strengths, but they don't have Hadrian, and he's irreplaceable, and I love it. So a book without Hadrian Marlowe in it is instantly a worse book.
It's a lesser book.
It's a lesser book.
Except if it's Red Rising. Okay. All right. That is our Kingdoms of Death review. Go into the Ashes of Man. Please don't spoil us in the comments below.
Please.
Very excited to continue. And I'm more excited too because it's the book I've heard the least about. So I'm ready to go in. I might not want to read the comments too much and just like bang through it.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to go through this series a little quicker than we normally go through series.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
We'll be starting Ashes of Man early April, right?
I believe.
Roughly?
Yes. Yep.
First week or 2 of April is when we'll start reading this book.
Yeah. Now, I'm probably going to binge through Game of Thrones. Whether you're up with me or not, just tag along. It's...
Okay.
Peak. It's peak. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next episode.
Bye, all.
Bye-bye.